One of the things that I didn't anticipate 4 years ago was just how big the demand for low-code, no-code solutions and approaches would be.
Welcome everyone to UpTech Report. This is our Applied Tech series. UpTech Report is sponsored by TerraLeap. Learn how to leverage the power of video at terraleap.io. Today I am joined by Anand Kulkarni, who's based in Berkeley, California. He's the CEO of Crowdbotics. Welcome, man. It's good to have you on.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks so much.
Now, your product basically lets anyone create React Native and Django apps without coding in its basic form. That's what you guys do. And those out there, if you're a developer wanting to build apps faster, or maybe you're a director of operations, a product manager, or other business leader, and you know you want to build an application and maybe you don't have the team for it, and you want to get it done easier, faster, this might be a platform you want to check out. Now, on your site, Anand, it states, under the hood, Crowdbotics uses machine learning to intelligently combine thousands of packages from across the open source universe into ready-to-use products. Tell me, when you started Crowdbotics, what was the problem that you set out to solve, and how has that changed over time?
Yeah, so when we started the company back in 2016, we were looking at the majority of applications that were being built in SaaS systems and mobile apps, and we saw that every time companies would face the same problem. They were building applications that had maybe 10 or 20% of original secret sauce that was truly unique and novel, and then 80% of these apps were off-the-shelf parts, right? Things that you really didn't need to hire a whole bunch of engineers to get them done, but everyone still had to go out and do the same thing: get some engineers, put the app together, reinvent the wheel, and we wanted to know if there was an easier way. Could you build applications by taking the parts that were out there already in the open source universe, which is the same thing that every software engineer does, but use a machine to staple those together into a working application?
You must have probably seen this problem, as you said, over and over, and that's what led you to this. I'm intrigued to hear more about your story. For those that want to hear the founder story, definitely stick around for part 2 of our interview, where we'll be able to dive deeper. But to give a taste, this is about 3-4 years ago you started Crowdbotics. What's one thing you would wish you had known 3-4 years ago that you know now?
Gosh, I think that one of the things that I didn't anticipate 4 years ago was just how big the demand for low-code, no-code solutions and approaches would be. We looked at this problem, and I came at this problem as a founder because I'd built an enterprise software company before this one, and we faced exactly this issue. It turns out that it's not just tech companies that have this problem; it's everybody inside organizations who recognizes that software should be able to solve their problems, and wants to do things the same way that engineers do. So looking back on it, I think if we had started out knowing that, we would have looked at the problems that business people face and started there instead of starting with developers. That said, it's been great to just take that technical approach, and it's really given us an edge in some interesting places.
Coming back to the products itself, you saw the need, and now you're like, wow, the need is even bigger than I expected. I'm curious, take me through a typical use case, maybe even highlight, if you can say the name of one of your companies that are using the platform. What does it look like?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you a lot of examples, but typically a user will show up at the platform with a conception of some application they need to solve. Typically, those applications involve some series of views, either on web or mobile. So think login screen, authentication, a dashboard, connection to one or more APIs like Facebook and Instagram if it's a social application, or a number of third-party databases or internal CRMs if it's a business application. And they know they want to staple this machine together. So we give them 3 ways to build applications. They can use a drag and drop web interface, which is kind of the simple, easy way. You grab some modules off the shelf. You say, let me put in my login screen. Let me put in my database and backend models. Click go, and the system will pull all the pieces that you need, staple them together, and publish it out. That's kind of the basic way that we started building applications. Option 2, of course, if you need help, we've got a very active network community of software developers and product designers who work inside our ecosystem, who you can work with directly to build software and customize it using the platform. But then third and most interesting is the newest way, which is language-based. You describe what you need in natural language. Our system parses what you are talking about and then matches that up automatically against the right code.
So hold on a second. You're basically saying you dictate to it. You say, this is the type of application I want, and suddenly it builds it for you.
Yeah, that's the idea. So yeah, this is the most bleeding edge kind of experimental route into the product today, and we're really excited about it. It uses GPT-3, which is OpenAI's new AI-based method for language processing. And it works mostly as described, right? So if you don't want to use any of the off-the-shelf parts, no problem. You can, you don't want to drag it together yourself. You can type in something like, give me a login screen with a password reset workflow and a email-based sign up, and describe the layout. And you can put it in any sort of variation of that. We feed it to GPT-3. GPT-3 tries two things: searches over our modules, or just tries to generate the raw code directly. And then you take your favorite version of it, it'll give you a few options, and hit go. And there you go, you've got a working login screen. So those kind of workflows end up becoming a new way to build software. It's a big difference from how people have thought about software creation in the past, which is why we're really excited about that particular feature and workflow.
Without a doubt, I feel like a lot of, especially maybe a product manager, a director of operations, or even a CMO is like, I want to build an application. And they would just naturally talk to a developer, talk to someone, say, this is what I want. Build me a home screen with a login that goes to an email system. And now you can just do that to an AI assistant effectively, and it would build it through your GPT-3. That is, I feel like, the future. But I'm curious on the developer side. How do developers see this? It's almost like a whole behavior change in mindset of how you work and build applications.
Yeah, this is a great question. So one of the founding principles we've had when we put this product together, and this is something that's different than most of the low-code, no-code solutions out there, was that whatever we built had to be something that a developer could look at, whatever was produced, and be happy with the outcome and say, this is a system that I feel good about using the code that was produced. Because the standard story in low code has always been, it's fine for business people, but if you want to build real code and real applications, you can't use the outcomes. It's too simple, and that's why we work in React Native and Django, it's the same stack as Instagram. They're open source, well understood frameworks, and when the system generates code, we generate out actual code in those frameworks in GitHub in a Git repository that you can go back and forth with the developer on, and actually manipulate the same way you manipulate handwritten code, which is really different from how people have thought about low code in the past.
This is it's providing the solution that end business leaders, as you say, want to create. They don't want to have to code, but yet it allows those who actually code, when they get it, they're like, oh, this is nice. I can actually work with this. I can build around it. I can develop it further, versus baked solutions that are here. This is all you have, cookie cutter. So you're creating a building blocks that allow you to modify and build upon beyond. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. And the great thing, I think, for a developer is that this is the way that developers end up building software on their own anyway, right? When you look at a problem, you say, okay, is there some open source package or pre-built module that will solve most of this for me that I can modify? And the answer is usually yes. For maybe 80% of the stuff you want to build, you're starting with something that somebody has put out there in the universe already. Well, great. Crowdbotics lets you find that quickly, essentially, if you're a developer, and use that as a quick start. That's the way that you can think about this if you're coming at this from a developer workflow. The other nice thing is, if you're a developer and you don't want to actually have to maintain somebody else's work or code, it's nice that we have a so-called WYSIWYG interface, a nice UI that you can use, that you can hand off to somebody who's not inside your technical team to go take care of making changes to the application for you, which is always important.
The business model here, SaaS, based on seats, number of months, years, how does that work?
Yeah, so today our business model is focused on it's not per seat, it's per application that you build. So there's a big free tier. Anyone can show up and spin up a starter application themselves.
They're playing with it.
At the point when you need one of a couple things, you can upgrade into one of the paid tiers. You can pay to get additional resources, additional support, or you can buy building blocks of modules. You can even have Crowdbotics manage the build process for you directly from our library. So that's how we make money on our side. But the free tier will always stay free, and that's an important philosophy. Anyone should be able to show up and build an application and get things started. And then, of course, when your app gets serious, that's when we will probably want to use some of the pro features in there.
What are you most excited about looking at something you just launched or coming up? I know you just talked probably one of the main ones, which is the integration of GTP3, but anything else you want to share about technology and the potential use cases of it?
Yeah, so we are seeing this kind of sea change in how people build software, where historically you've had to do everything by hand, or the vast majority of stuff by hand in an IDE, writing code piece by piece. And we're part of this growing trend where everybody who is building software is trying to figure out ways to lower the barrier to entry, to make it simpler to do more things by standing on the shoulders of what other people have built. Of course, the AI feature that we talked about just now is one really exciting way that we can reduce the barrier for people to get from I have an idea to I am seeing some code on a screen, or I'm seeing a working interface and a working application on screen. But I think there's lots of other attacks that we're thinking about that are coming up on that same problem. So imagine instead of describing what you're doing in natural language, you draw it out on a design tool, your favorite design tool, and design software, which is where a lot of people, draw what they're trying to do. They're building prototypes. It'd be really great if you can click a button and convert that directly into a starter application from your design. Okay, so we're working on that right now. We're going to be likely releasing something to support that very directly in the weeks ahead. But that one is right around the corner, and that's another method that uses machine intelligence to intelligently try and understand your design and turn that into an application. Another way that we can try and simplify the process of getting into an app and making it work.
If you had a word of wisdom for maybe whether it's on the the developer side or a business leader who knows they want to build applications, any thought that comes to your mind of a word of wisdom?
Yeah, okay. So I think that the question that business leaders always ask when they're looking at creating software is, do we need to do this totally from scratch? Or should we use well understood kind of existing technologies? We almost always recommend people don't go for the latest and greatest bleeding edge software framework. Pick stuff that's tried and true. And you'll end up benefiting from it. So for us, that's React Native and Django, which is honestly, in the grand scheme of things, not the oldest stack that's out there, but it's compared to some of these new hip languages and new frameworks, it really makes things easy for people because there's such a wide ecosystem of support. There's so many modules and packages, and I think that's the real recommendation we have is build on trusted frameworks and trusted infrastructure, which is the same way we build.
What can you share beyond your company future, 5 years from now, your roadmap? What's coming up and what are you excited about? Where do you see it?
Yeah, so we want to be the preeminent place that people go to build software. We think about what we are doing for software creation, for application creation, in the same way that WordPress changed the way that people make websites, right? 15 to 20 years ago. So looking 5 or 10 years downstream, we'll be the main place people go to build whatever app you want to build, business app, consumer app, or backend software to manage your next big thing. We've gotten a pretty decent portion of the way there already. We've got a number of apps running on the system, some of which are really successful in their own categories, others of which are handling mission critical operations inside hospitals, financial institutions, even some government stuff. So there's been some really exciting progress so far.
Well, thank you so much, Anand, for sharing this journey that you're on, this unique way of building applications going forward. And I'm excited to see what comes next. For those that want to learn more, go ahead and give it a try yourself. Give it a spin and go to crowdbotics.com. Yes, you do have the .com. crowdbotics.com. And I think you can just start building. You have that free tier that we can just jump in, right?
Jump right in. That's right.
I love it. Love it. Well, thank you again for your time. And stick around for part 2 of our interview, where we'll be diving a little bit more deeper into the lessons learned that he's had over the past few years and more about how he's planning on moving forward. Excited for that. Again, thanks for joining for our Apply Tech. Our sponsor for today's episode is TerraLeap. If your company wants to learn how to better leverage the power of video to increase sales and marketing, head over to terraleap.io and learn about the new product customer stories. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys next time. Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.